Admiral's 6 eyes focused on the tactical display with growing unease. The massive aboard the Imperial dreadnought Eternal Dominion showed what should have been impossible. A single vessel, barely 1/10 the size of his flagship, hung motionless in the void between the twin moons of Prime. The alien ship everything the Galactic Empire knew about starship design. Where Imperial vessels were sleek and crystalline, this intruder was angular and brutal, its dark hull with what appeared to be battle damage. Strange markings covered its surface, and weapon ports dotted its frame like the eyes of some predatory beast. "Fleet Admiral," communications officer reported, her voice trembling slightly. "We've been trying to establish contact for the past 3 standard hours. The vessel refuses to respond to any of our hails." His mandibles clicked in annoyance. For over 2, the Galactic Empire had maintained absolute control over this sector of space. No species had ever dared to venture into Imperial territory without proper authorization. The very concept was unthinkable. "What do our intelligence archives tell us about this vessel's design?" he demanded. Chief Intelligence Analyst activated his holographic interface, data streams flowing across his scaled features. "Nothing, Fleet Admiral. The configuration is completely unknown. Our databases contain no matching signatures, no similar technological patterns, and no records of any species capable of constructing such a vessel." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's systems. Around them, the rest of the Imperial fleet maintained their positions, 47 warships of various classes, from nimble destroyers to massive battlecruisers. Each vessel represented centuries of technological advancement and military might. Together, they could reduce entire worlds to ash. Yet something about the lone alien ship made combat instincts scream warnings. "Sir," tactical officer interrupted, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the target vessel. The power signatures are inconsistent with known propulsion systems." Studied the readings himself. The alien ship's energy output fluctuated in patterns that made no sense. It was as if the vessel operated on principles the Empire had never encountered. "Perhaps we're dealing with a probe or automated vessel," suggested intelligence analyst. "A lost ship from some distant galaxy wandering into our territory by accident." The fleet admiral wasn't convinced. Something about the ship's positioning seemed too deliberate, too calculated. It sat precisely at the gravitational balance point between Prime's moons, a location that would require advanced navigational capabilities and intimate knowledge of local space. "Fleet Admiral," communications officer called out urgently, "the alien vessel is finally responding to our hails." On screen, the main flickered, then displayed the interior of what appeared to be a command bridge. The sight that greeted them sent ripples of shock through the Imperial crew. The being that faced them stood upright on 2 legs, its pale skin stretched over a bipedal frame. Sparse hair covered the top of its head, and 2 small eyes stared out from a flat face. It wore what looked like a simple gray uniform, completely unremarkable except for small metallic insignia. "I am Captain Sarah of the human starship Defiance," the being said in perfect Imperial standard. "You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system before I consider your presence an act of aggression." The bridge erupted in confused murmurs. How could this primitive-looking creature speak their language? How did it know Imperial standard when the Empire had no record of its species? Recovered quickly, his military training taking over. "I am Fleet Admiral of the Galactic Empire. You are trespassing in Imperial space. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." The human's expression didn't change. "Fleet Admiral, you have 20 seconds remaining." "You dare threaten an Imperial fleet?" His voice rose to a roar. "You pilot a single vessel against 47 warships. Surrender now or be destroyed." Captain's lips curved slightly upward in what the Imperial crew couldn't recognize as a predatory smile. 10 seconds, Admiral. I suggest you choose wisely." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts. Dozens of them, appearing from seemingly empty space around the Imperial fleet. Each signature matched the mysterious human vessel, and they had somehow approached completely undetected. "Impossible," whispered tactical officer. "Our sensors show nothing. How are they?" "Time's up," Captain announced calmly. The first human weapon strike came without warning. A brilliant lance of azure energy erupted from the Defiance, slicing through the void with impossible precision. The beam penetrated the shields of the Imperial destroyer Conquest's edge as if they didn't exist, boring a perfect hole through the vessel's crystalline hull. Secondary explosions bloomed along the destroyer's length as critical systems overloaded. Within moments, the proud warship listed helplessly in space, its crew scrambling to contain catastrophic damage. "All vessels, return fire," commanded, his voice echoing across the fleet communications network. The Imperial response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of energy cannons opened fire simultaneously, filling space with deadly plasma streams and particle beams. The combined firepower could have vaporized a small moon. Every shot missed. The human vessels moved like nothing the Imperial forces had ever encountered. They didn't simply accelerate or change direction. They seemed to bend space around themselves, sliding through dimensions that Imperial sensors couldn't track. One moment a human ship would be directly ahead, the next it would materialize behind an Imperial cruiser, weapons already firing. "Their acceleration curves are impossible," Tactical Officer reported, his voice cracking with stress. "According to our readings, they're pulling maneuvers that should any biological crew." Another human vessel, identical to the Defiance, appeared directly above the battlecruiser Emperor's Will. Its weapons discharged in rapid succession, each shot finding gaps in the Imperial ship's defenses that shouldn't have existed. Armor plating that had withstood the test of centuries simply evaporated under the alien assault. Captain's voice cut through the chaos on the communications channel. "Admiral, I offered you a chance to withdraw. You chose poorly." Watched in growing horror as his fleet, the pride of the Imperial Navy, was systematically dismantled. The human ships fought with a precision that bordered on supernatural. They anticipated every Imperial tactic, countered every strategy before it could be fully implemented. "Sir, the Stellar Dominance reports complete shield failure," communications officer announced. "The Victory's pride has lost main propulsion. The Iron Resolve is requesting immediate medical assistance. They've taken heavy casualties." The fleet admiral's strategic mind raced, trying to understand what he was witnessing. These humans moved their vessels with the fluid grace of a dance, each ship perfectly synchronized with its companions. They fought not as individual units, but as a single organism, sharing information and coordinating attacks in real time. "How many of them are there?" he demanded. "Sensors are still having difficulty maintaining locks, sir," replied. "Best estimate suggests 40 to 50 vessels, all appearing to match the specifications of the lead ship." Felt a chill run down his spine. 50 ships against 47, and the humans were winning decisively. It wasn't just their technology, though that was clearly superior. It was their tactics, their coordination, their seemingly effortless ability to predict Imperial movements. A new voice crackled over the communications system, different from Captain, but equally calm and controlled. "Admiral, this is Commander Torres of the Retribution. My targeting computers have a solution on your flagship. I strongly recommend you consider Captain's original suggestion." The tactical display confirmed the threat. A human vessel had somehow maneuvered to the perfect firing position, its weapons trained directly on the Eternal Dominion's command bridge. Realized with growing dread that the humans could have destroyed his flagship at any moment, they were choosing not to. "Sir," intelligence analyst spoke quietly, "I'm detecting massive power buildups across the human fleet. Their weapons appear to be charging for a coordinated strike." The fleet admiral stared at the tactical display, watching his carefully organized formation dissolve into chaos. Imperial ships limped away from the battle zone, their proud hulls and burning. The humans continued their deadly dance, appearing and disappearing like phantoms, each appearance resulting in another crippled Imperial vessel. "Fleet Admiral," Captain's voice returned, as composed as ever, "you have one final opportunity. Order your vessels to withdraw beyond the asteroid belt, and this engagement ends here. Continue your aggressive posture, and I will be forced to demonstrate why human warships are not to be underestimated." His mandibles ground together in frustration. Everything he had been taught about Imperial supremacy, about the natural order of the galaxy, was crumbling before his eyes. These humans, these unknown creatures from beyond Imperial space, were treating his mighty fleet like children playing with toys. "What are your intentions in this system?" he asked, his pride warring with his survival instincts. "That is not your concern," Admiral replied. Your only concern should be the survival of your crews. You have 30 seconds to make your decision. Around them, the human ships continued their lethal ballet, demonstrating a level of tactical sophistication that made Imperial doctrine seem primitive by comparison. Each vessel moved with purpose, every action calculated for maximum effect. The fleet admiral realized he was facing a choice that would define the rest of his career, and possibly his life. Fleet admiral made the most difficult decision of his military career. All Imperial vessels withdraw to coordinates 77 Alpha beyond the asteroid belt. Maintain defensive formation, but do not engage unless directly fired upon. The relief in his bridge crew was palpable as the battered Imperial fleet began its retreat. Ships that had entered the system with pride and confidence now limped away, their crews working frantically to repair critical damage. The human vessels followed at a respectful distance, their weapons powered down but their presence serving as a constant reminder of the Empire's humiliation. As the Imperial fleet reached the designated coordinates, found himself studying everything he could about these mysterious humans. Their ships maintained perfect formation even during the pursuit, and their energy signatures remained stable despite the intense combat they had just concluded. "Sir," intelligence analyst reported privately, "I've been analyzing the engagement data. The humans were holding back." The words hit like a physical blow. "Explain." "Their weapons never fired at full capacity. Based on the power readings I recorded, each human vessel could have delivered at least 3 times the destructive force they actually used. They were deliberately limiting their attacks to disable rather than destroy." The implications were staggering. The humans could have obliterated the entire Imperial fleet within minutes, but they had chosen mercy instead. It was a demonstration of power that went beyond mere technological superiority. It showed a level of restraint and tactical thinking that the Empire had never encountered. Captain's voice crackled over the communications system once again. "Admiral, I believe some clarification is in order. My government has been monitoring Imperial activities in this sector for the past 18 months. 18 months. The number echoed in his mind. The humans had been watching the Empire for over a year, studying their movements, their tactics, their technology. The entire engagement had been planned from the beginning. "We know about your mining operations on Prime," continued. "We know about the forced relocation of the native population. We know about the ecological damage your extraction methods have caused." The fleet admiral felt his heart sink. The operation was classified at the highest levels of Imperial command. How could these outsiders possibly have obtained such detailed intelligence? "The people appealed to the Terran Federation for assistance," Captain explained, as if reading his thoughts. "They managed to send a distress signal beyond Imperial jamming frequencies. That signal reached us 6 months ago." This expression hardened slightly. The message described systematic oppression, cultural destruction, and environmental devastation. It painted a picture of Imperial governance that my people found disturbing. Realized the magnitude of the situation was far beyond a simple territorial dispute. The humans weren't random invaders. They were responding to a specific crisis, and they had come prepared for war. "What do you want?" he asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Complete Imperial withdrawal from the system within 72 hours, replied without hesitation. "All mining equipment is to be left intact for eventual return to control. All citizens currently held in Imperial detention facilities are to be released immediately." The demands were impossible to meet. The mining operation represented one of the Empire's most profitable ventures, extracting rare minerals essential for Imperial technology. The political ramifications of abandoning such a valuable asset would reverberate throughout Imperial space. "And if we refuse?" asked, though his recent experience provided a clear answer. Smile returned, cold and predatory. "Admiral, you've seen what a single human task force can accomplish against your fleet. Would you care to experience what an entire battle group might do?" The threat was delivered with such casual confidence that it sent chills through the Imperial bridge crew. If this small force represented merely a fraction of human military capability, then the Empire faced a threat unlike anything in its history. "I need to consult with Imperial Command," said finally. "Of course," agreed. "You have 72 hours to provide your answer. Until then, human forces will maintain position in this system to ensure no interference with affairs. The communication ended, leaving the Imperial fleet in stunned silence. Around them, the human vessels had spread out across the system, establishing what appeared to be a comprehensive blockade. Their movements were precise and professional, showing none of the chaos that typically followed a major engagement. "Sir," communications officer spoke quietly, "I'm receiving priority messages from Imperial Command. They're requesting an immediate status report." Stared at the tactical display, trying to formulate words that could adequately describe what had just occurred. How could he explain to the Imperial leadership that their most powerful fleet had been defeated by an unknown species in less than an hour? How could he convey the technological gap that seemed to separate the Empire from these humans? "Prepare a secured transmission to Imperial Command," he ordered finally. "Encrypt it with the highest level protocols available." As his crew worked to establish the connection, found himself studying the human vessels through the long-range sensors. Each ship maintained its position with mathematical precision, their formation designed to monitor all possible approach vectors to Prime. The humans weren't just technologically advanced. They were organized, disciplined, and clearly operating under a unified command structure that could coordinate complex operations across multiple vessels. They had transformed what should have been a chaotic battle into a clinical demonstration of superior capability. For the first time in his career, Fleet Admiral began to question whether the Galactic Empire was truly the dominant force it claimed to be. The Imperial War Council's holographic chamber materialized around Fleet Admiral as he delivered his report to the highest levels of Imperial command. The assembled leadership, generals, admirals, and sector governors from across the galaxy, listened in stunned silence as he described the encounter with the human fleet. Grand Admiral, or Supreme Commander of all Imperial forces, spoke first. His ancient voice carried the authority of 7 centuries of military service. "You're telling us that a single unknown species defeated our most powerful battle group without sustaining any losses?" "That's correct, Grand Admiral," replied, his shame evident. "Their technology and tactics are far beyond anything we've previously encountered. Our weapons were ineffective, our sensors couldn't track their movements, and they demonstrated intimate knowledge of Imperial procedures." Senator, representing the Imperial Mining Consortium, interjected angrily. "The operation cannot be abandoned. It produces 30% of our rare earth materials. Without those resources, Imperial technology will stagnate within a decade." "Senator," said carefully, "these humans have the capability to enforce their demands. Continuing the operation would require a military response that we may not be able to provide." The chamber erupted in heated debate as various officials argued over the unprecedented situation. Some called for massive retaliation, others suggested negotiation, and a few recommended tactical withdrawal while they gathered more intelligence about human capabilities. Grand Admiral or raised his hand for silence. "Fleet Admiral, what is your assessment of human military strength based on what you observed?" Had dreaded this question. "Sir, based on their coordination, technology, and tactical doctrine, I believe the force we encountered represents a small fraction of their total capability. Their ships moved with precision that suggests extensive training and advanced command systems. Their weapons technology appears to be generations ahead of our own." "Recommendations?" the Grand Admiral asked. "We need more information before committing to any course of action. I suggest establishing formal diplomatic contact while simultaneously preparing our defenses for possible escalation." Senator scoffed. "Diplomacy with unknown aliens who threaten Imperial sovereignty? Unthinkable." Before anyone could respond, an urgent communication alert filled the chamber. Communications Director appeared on the central display, her expression grim. "Grand Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from 17 different systems along our outer borders. All report the sudden appearance of unknown vessels matching the description provided by Fleet Admiral." The chamber fell silent, felt his blood turn cold as the implications became clear. The humans hadn't sent a single task force they had simultaneously deployed forces across multiple Imperial systems. "How many ships are we talking about?" Grand Admiral or demanded. "Preliminary reports suggest anywhere from 200 to 500 vessels, sir." The exact number is difficult to determine due to their apparent stealth capabilities. The scale of the human deployment was staggering. The Empire's entire active fleet consisted of approximately 800 warships spread across thousands of systems. The humans had apparently matched half of Imperial strength in a single coordinated operation. "What are they doing?" someone asked. "Mostly maintaining position and monitoring Imperial activities," Director reported. "However, they're also broadcasting a message to local populations in over 30 different languages." "What message?" Grand Admiral Orr's voice was barely controlled. "They're identifying themselves as the Terran Federation and offering assistance to any species experiencing oppression or ecological destruction under Imperial rule. They're also providing communication frequencies for filing formal complaints about Imperial governance." The political implications were catastrophic. If subject species began appealing to the humans for intervention, the entire Imperial power structure could collapse within months. The Empire's authority rested on the assumption that no outside force could challenge Imperial dominance. "Sir," interjected, "there's something else you need to know. During our encounter, the human captain mentioned they had been monitoring our activities for 18 months. They knew details about classified operations that should have been impossible to obtain." Grand Admiral Orr's expression darkened. "Are you suggesting they have intelligence assets within Imperial space?" "I'm suggesting they have capabilities we don't understand. They may have technology that allows them to gather information without our knowledge." The assembled leadership exchanged worried glances. An enemy that could penetrate Imperial security systems represented a threat far beyond conventional military concerns. "Recommendations?" the Grand Admiral asked again. Defense Minister spoke up. "We should mobilize the reserve fleets and prepare for total war. No alien species has ever challenged Imperial authority and survived." "With respect, Minister," said, "based on what I witnessed, a direct military confrontation would be catastrophic. These humans fight like they've studied our tactics for years. They anticipate our moves, counter our strategies, and possess technology that makes our weapons seem primitive." Senator stood angrily. "Are you suggesting the mighty Galactic Empire should bow to a handful of unknown aliens?" "I'm suggesting we should avoid a conflict we cannot win," replied firmly. "At least until we understand what we're truly facing." The debate continued for hours as Imperial leadership struggled to comprehend the new reality. For over the Empire had been the undisputed master of known space. The concept of a superior force was so foreign that many officials simply refused to accept it. Finally, Grand Admiral Orr called for order. "We will not make any hasty decisions. Fleet Admiral, you will return to the system and attempt to establish formal diplomatic contact with these humans. Learn everything you can about their capabilities, intentions, and demands." "And the operation?" Senator asked. "Will continue as planned until we receive definitive orders otherwise," the Grand Admiral declared. "The Empire does not yield to threats." Realized he was being sent back to face an enemy that had already demonstrated their superiority, armed only with pride and stubbornness that might prove fatal to everyone involved. Fleet Admiral returned to the system with a heavy heart and explicit orders that he knew would lead to disaster. The human blockade remained in position, their ships maintaining perfect formations while monitoring all Imperial activities. The 72-hour deadline was approaching rapidly, and the Empire had chosen defiance over diplomacy. "Fleet Admiral," communications officer announced, "Captain is requesting immediate communication." The activated, revealing the human captain's steady gaze. Her expression remained neutral, but detected a hint of disappointment in her eyes. "Admiral, I trust you've consulted with your superiors regarding our requirements," said without preamble. "Captain, the Galactic Empire appreciates your concerns regarding the situation. However, Imperial sovereignty cannot be compromised. We are prepared to discuss alternative arrangements that might address your humanitarian concerns while respecting established territorial boundaries." His expression didn't change. "Admiral, that sounds like a diplomatic way of saying no." Felt sweat beading on his scaled skin. "The Empire values peaceful resolution, but we cannot abandon our legitimate operations based on ultimatums from unknown parties." "Unknown parties?" His voice carried a note of amusement. Admiral, let me clarify something for you. The Terran Federation has been observing galactic politics for quite some time. We know exactly who you are, how your government operates, and what your true capabilities are. The human captain paused, allowing her words to sink in. We also know that this conversation is being monitored by your Imperial command, so I'll address them directly. Looked straight into the camera, her gaze seeming to pierce through space itself. To the Imperial leadership currently listening to this transmission, your 72 hours expired 17 minutes ago. Your refusal to comply with humanitarian demands has been noted and will be acted upon accordingly. Felt his heart skip a beat. Captain, surely we can reach some accommodation. The time for accommodation has passed, Admiral. His voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. You chose to interpret our mercy as weakness. That was a mistake. The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts appearing throughout the system. Not dozens this time, but hundreds. Human vessels materialized from what appeared to be empty space, surrounding the system with a fleet that dwarfed anything the Empire had ever assembled. Impossible, whispered Tactical Officer. Where did they all come from? Captain heard the comment and smiled. Cloaking technology, Officer. We've been here the entire time, waiting to see if the Empire would choose wisdom over pride. Each human ship was larger than the vessels from the first encounter, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays that seemed to bend light around them. The energy readings were off the scale, indicating power cores that made Imperial reactors seem like primitive steam engines. As of this moment, announced formally, the system is under the protection of the Terran Federation. All Imperial personnel have 6 hours to evacuate to neutral space. Any attempt to remove resources or citizens will be considered an act of war. You cannot simply claim an Imperial system, protested, though his words sounded hollow even to himself. Admiral, we're not claiming anything, we're liberating it. His expression softened slightly. The people will govern themselves with Federation support until they can establish stable independence. This is what self-determination looks like. A new voice crackled over the communications system, one recognized with growing dread. It was Grand Admiral or himself, speaking directly from Imperial Command. Human forces, this is Grand Admiral or of the Galactic Empire. Your actions constitute an unprovoked invasion of sovereign Imperial territory. We demand immediate withdrawal or face the full might of Imperial retaliation. Captain's smile turned predatory. Grand Admiral, thank you for joining us. I've been looking forward to this conversation. You dare address me directly, alien? Or's ancient voice carried centuries of accumulated arrogance. Actually, I do more than that, replied calmly. I'm formally notifying you that the Terran Federation is implementing humanitarian intervention protocols across 17 Imperial systems where sentient species have requested assistance. The magnitude of the statement hit like a physical blow. 17 systems, major Imperial holdings that represented significant portions of the Empire's industrial and military capacity. Furthermore, continued, any attempt at military retaliation will result in expanded Federation intervention. We have detailed records of Imperial activities across this entire sector, and we're prepared to act on behalf of every oppressed species under your control. Grand Admiral Or's voice shook with rage. The Empire will not yield to terrorist demands. We will crush your pathetic Federation and reduce your worlds to ash. Grand Admiral, his voice remained perfectly composed. You're welcome to try. However, I should mention that our main battle fleet is currently positioned in orbit around you. They're awaiting my orders. The communications channel fell silent. The impossible had become reality. An unknown alien force had somehow penetrated to the heart of Imperial space and threatened the Empire's capital world. This is impossible, Or whispered. No, Grand Admiral. This is what happens when a civilization built on oppression encounters one founded on justice. The age of Imperial dominance is over. The question now is whether that transition happens peacefully or through conflict. Captain's final words echoed across Imperial space, carrying a message that would reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. The choice, as always, is yours. As human ships began moving toward Prime to begin evacuation assistance, Fleet Admiral realized he was witnessing the end of an empire and the birth of a new galactic order. The humans had accomplished, in days, what the Empire's enemies had failed to achieve in. They had proven that imperial power was not absolute. The age of human intervention had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.